We gratefully acknowledge the sponsors of learning here at Congregation Torah Or. A year of learning, the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Perez, Soratova Bas Yisrael Dove. Friends of Nina Moinister, Nechama Asna Bas Yitzchak Aron. Friends of Stephen Vigder, Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka. Isaac and Evelyn Blacher in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isur. A month of learning, Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his brother, Yaakov Ben Avraham. Perry and Jill Meltzer in memory of his parents, Bella Bat Abraham and David Ben Fishel Halevi. A day of learning, today is the 15th. Shirley and Marvin Weinstein in memory of her late husband, Yaakov Ben Levi. And that's it. Okay. So I don't know. Kenny will be a couple of minutes. Should I wait for him?
Oh, Marty's coming in now.
I understand. I'm asking, do you have an objection to me waiting a few minutes for Kenny?
I have to leave early anyway.
Okay, so I'll start. Okay. So you don't have to go there because it's just 2 words, but Omer Velazar, now we're on the top. Ha'omer Pesach Pisuach Matzasi. It's the first night, and I found her opening was open. In other words, her canal was not taut. It was easy, in and out. Ne'eman, we believe him, la asura olav, and the woman would therefore be forbidden to him. So before anybody asks, now it's not definitive evidence, right? He just finds it, I mean, he's such an experienced fellow. He finds that she's looser than he expected.
I don't know what to expect.
That's part of the problem. I mean, maybe he has other wives. Maybe he did things he's not supposed to do. He was looser than he anticipated. And he goes to Bezdin and he makes that claim, she's usher to him. So obviously, number one, she saw there was no blood. Because if he saw blood, he'd wave the sheet in front of Bezdin. That would be the end of that. So Rashi explains that either the sheet was misplaced or she's a member of family. Apparently there were families who hereditarily had very flexible hymens, and therefore they did not tear at the Bia Rishona. This is his impression. What?
Maybe he didn't perform properly.
The point is, there are grounds to question whether it's really true.
Could have married a client.
So the ruling is, we're talking about if she had, don't forget there's this year between Erison and Nisuyin. So if he finds she's no longer a virgin, in his opinion, without absolute proof, it's a suffix whether she had bia or not. Soita is a deraisa dika rule. So suffix deraisa lachumra, and we would say they may not mate again. Okay, unless they could clarify the issue. Okay, so va'amai, the Gemara says just a minute. Ber says it's a suffix. That's not true. Svek sveikahi. It's a double suffix and a svek sveika. We do not go lachumra min haTorah. Suffix tachtav there's a question, assuming she had beer with someone else, which is not 100%. You still have a double doubt. Maybe it was during the year of where she's an Arusa, Suffolk Tachtov, Suffolk Ein Tachtov, or maybe it was prior to the Arison. So that's a double suffix. The imtim salomer tachtov, even if you say that she did, that you give her the benefit that she did not have sex prior to Arusin, nonetheless, suffix eine, suffix veratzon. We do not know whether she willingly had sex with someone else or she was coerced. So Gemara says low. No, that analysis is incorrect. Okay? Tzricha, we need to make this statement that the couple are usher to each other if he determines her to be loose. Be'eshes Kohen, because there is the case of the marital relationship between a girl and a Kohen. Even if it was ba'ones, she would not be able to be with her husband. A Kohenes who's raped husband has to divorce her. So that eliminates one of the sveikos. And we say that the applicability of this din is to a Kohen who tainis she's too loose. Okay, the Iboy Sema, or there's yet another possibility. The Iboy Sema be Ashes Yisroel, she's the wife of Stama Yisroel, who normally would be able to be with his wife if there's a Sveka. The Kagan, the Kabil Ba Avuha Kedushin, Pesuchas mi beis gimel shanim v'yom echad. The girl's father, acting as her agent, made kedushin with a man when she was a toddler. She was less than 3 in a day. So it's her father who does it. So it's chol on a diraisa level. And even if she had bia prior to 3 in a day, it doesn't count because bia is defined as 3 in a day up. So now the only suffix is that she might have had bia during the time that she was in Arusa. She was in Arusa effectively her whole life. So that's only a single suffix. And they're forbidden to each other. So, Mike Mashmalan, what is this Gemara trying to teach us? Tanina ha'omer isha kedusha sicha. I go to a bezdin and I say, I made kedushin with Sylvia Kleiner, not Abramowitz. And Vehi Omeres lo kadishtani. What do you mean? Says that never happened. You did not makadesh me. So he, by his own speech, this is actually going further. A man can, by his own, or a woman, can by their own statement usher something to them. If I say I'm never going to eat hamburgers again, you neder, and I leave out the bli neder, then I can't eat hamburgers anymore. So he says that my betrothed, she is my arusa, and she says that's not true. So now, by his words, we're giving the chumrah that her family members, the women in her family, are erevas by Vihi. But because she said it never happened, his brother, his father, are not erevas because she said it never happened. So to Muteris Provov, she's allowed to marry his brother, his father, his relatives, Vahu aser b'kruvoseho, but he cannot marry to her family anymore because he claims Erusa.
So we're taking her word over his word.
No, we're taking both their words. We're taking both their words. He would have to, would order him to give her a get. But by the point of this piece of Gemara is his testimony unsupported. There were no aiding. Is enough to create an Isser for him. But without Adam, it's not, it can't create an Isser for her. We take him, that's what we said at the very beginning when he says Pesach B'Surah, Matzatzi Nema, Surah. We believe him to the extent that she becomes Usher to him. Okay? So, Mahu Detema. So, what are we going to argue over here? Hasam Devad, excuse me. Hasam Devadai Kimle. From his perspective, it is certain that he did do Kedushin with her. It's disputed. There aren't them, but he's willing to swear to that. But from his perspective, it definitely happened. Aval Hacha, here, with a case of he claims he's too loose, right? Make him who the low kimle. He's making a claim, but as Bob pointed out, he's, women vary. He can't be absolutely certain she's not a virgin. It was only al safek. So Kamash Malan, so Rabbi Elazar brought this memra to say that on his word, in a safek, since it's the Eraisa, she's usher to him. Okay? But we're going to challenge that with the story of David and Bathsheba. Umi Omer Rav Elazar, Hachi, did Rav Elazar really say that? Vaha Omer Rav Elazar in another Mishnah or another Brisa, Ein Ha'isha Naseres al Baila, a woman does not become forbidden to her husband. Ella al iske kinui sesira. This is the classic soda case. He suspects she's too friendly with Klein. So he says, he warns her about being with Klein. And then people tell him that she was in a closed room with Klein. He gave her a warning and she violated his order to be with Klein. Now, even though there's no proof that she did anything with Klein in that room, nevertheless, at that point, she's usher to her husband. And he says, Kamaisa Shahoya, like the story that happened. And the Meforshim explained that's with David and Bathsheba. Okay? So the Gemara says, just a minute. Vatispera, is it logical to use the case of David and Bathsheba as an archetype? What warning was there? Uriah was off at the war. Nobody warned Bathsheba not to be with David. And so it didn't happen. Furthermore, Asaruha, who said she was forbidden to her husband. In the storyline, he got a furlough, he came home, he was with her after she was with David. So she was nobody paskin that she was forbidden to him. What?
He didn't want to be with her.
Oh, okay, but he could have been.
Okay.
In other words, the point was there was no sign on the door, do not enter, she's a saita. Okay, and we got to take her to the Kohen Gadol. He had option, he chose not to. But so you can't use that as an archetype that it's the automatic bar. Okay, so halokasha, that problem of his going home on furlough is not so much of an issue. Hoka Amar, here's what Rav Elazar was talking about. Ein ha'isha neseres al baila ela al iske kinoi v'sisira. A woman does not become forbidden to her husband unless there is the warning on his part, don't be involved with Klein. And then somebody comes along and say, guess what? She went off into the closet with Klein at the Rosh Chodesh Kiddush. Okay, Umaisa Shahoya. And that is just like the story of David and Bathsheba. We're revising why they are the archetype. The lo havi kinoi v'sisira, the lo is tasra. And therefore she wasn't technically forbidden to him and he could come home on furlough. What they did was their business. But nonetheless, we still have a problem. If there had been a warning, Bathsheba would have been forbidden to him. So Pesach Pesuach Lo. So you have to understand the Gemara's logic here. Only with Adam and a warning would she have been forbidden to him. So a claim of she wasn't as tight as I thought she should have been would not be sufficient to usher him, according to Rav Elazar's second statement that you have to have the meet procedural requirements. Ulataimech, and according to this rationale, kinoi v'sisira ain only with kinoi and sisira, with warning by the husband and seclusion anyway with the suspect individual. So now the Gemara goes in the absolute opposite direction. Only if you have the husband warning her first and then she sneaks off with Klein. If she sneaks off with Klein without any pre-warning, the Gemara, the logic now is that no problem. She could still be with her husband, even when she actually had beer with Klein. Okay, Eidim Lo, witnesses that she actually had beer with Klein wouldn't be good enough. Elahachi, so that what? No, if a Kohen's a Kohen. That even in this, the point here is we're taking the logic of you have to follow the procedure. He has to warn her first, and then she has to be secluded. And we're carrying it to an illogical extreme. That even if she has sex with her paramour in Times Square in front of witnesses, that would not be sufficient because he didn't warn her yet.
Well, she's not associated now, not adulteress.
But if procedure is what counts, structurally he never warned her.
It's also a situation the Chachila and the
Okay, but the Gemara is going to immediately reject this. So don't worry. In other words, the Gemara is throwing out this trial balloon. If you're so insistent on following a specific procedure, then there's this gaping loophole where they could have sex in Times Square, and that would not be grounds to make her forbidden to him. Elahachika Amar, that makes no sense. So here's what Rav Elazar has to be saying. Ein ha'isha neseres al baila bi'ed echad. The testimony of a single witness would be inadequate. So if it was 4 a.m. in Times Square and there was only one onlooker, that wouldn't be good enough. Ela b'shnei edim, but you'd need 2 witnesses. However, kinoi v'sisira, Afilu b'ed echad nami, if there is only one witness to the seclusion after the husband warned her, that would be good enough. So we still have the problem of the husband claiming she wasn't tight enough. So we're going to now say, Upesach pisuach kishnei edim dame, that if he feels that the first bia was too facile, that, and he makes that taina in court, from his perspective, that would be the equivalent of 2 edim. Now where Rebbe Lazar is consistent throughout, and we can go on. V'chi teima ma'aseh shehoyu b'fnei ma lo osruha. So now we want to just wrap up the story with David and Bathsheba, and we want to ask, why indeed could Uriah have come home on furlough and been with her had he chosen? Why wasn't she taka usher to him? It was a known thing. Okay, so the one answer is Hasam Eines that David forced her. Now, the way we get that from is the psukim, David sent people to go get her. So at this point, the Gemara is representing that she was taka arrested and brought to the palace. So we give her the benefit of the doubt, and we
How does the Archspell translate the word onus?
forced intercourse. What is
Current Steinsaltz used a much stronger language.
raped? Yeah, but you can't. I saw that too, and Rashi says, but I don't want to accuse David of rape. It was forced.
Well, she
Okay.
was before the king, and you don't say.
It's implicit, like we started out by saying
No,
if
I
the
think
king
that's- I
takes a
agree with
woman,
you.
and they're bringing this
I-
as a remez to the king claiming right of first refusal. In any event, the e-boy sema, or if you're not happy with calling David a rapist, we could say like this: Kiha the Omer of Shmuel bar Nechmeni, Omer of Yochanan, turn the page. Kol hayotze lemilchemes beis David, anyone who was in one of the armies who went out into war in David's wars, okay, get krisis kasav leishto, he would write, we learned this concept earlier, he would write a conditional get. If I do not come home with the troops at the end of the war, we are divorced as of today. Okay? Now, it had to be that wording. If I do not come home with the rest of the troops. Because if he said, if I die in the war, and then he's missing in action, she would not be divorced. Okay? And with regard to the furlough, so that somebody's going to ask that was before the end of the war. So the terms of the get, she was still his wife at that point, and he had the right to come home. Okay, now how do we know that? That they did that in David's wars? Tiksiv v'es achicha tifkaid l'shalom. You have to be careful to give your brothers a sense of tranquility. As arubosam tikach, take their arubam, their arubas. Okay, so my es arubasam tikach, what does that word mean? Now the shoresh of this word is the word orev or erev, to blend, to mix. Okay, Tani Reb Yosef explains, Dvarim hamu uborin beino beino. The things that make a marriage is that their interests are blended together. So if you take away the blend from the couple, that's a poetic way of saying they separate, they get a divorce. Okay? Next, we're going to now justify Rav Elazar. Omer Abaya, Af Anan Namitanina. We also learn in our Mishnah, Besula Nisei Shili Omer Revi'i, a girl gets married on Wednesday. Liyom HaRevi'in, only on Wednesday. Liyom Chamishi Lo, but not on Thursday. My time, why not? Mishum Ikrure Daita. If we let him marry her on Thursday, and they have Bia Thursday night, and he's all very upset because she's too loose, or there is no blood, or whatever his taina is, and he'll start thinking about it. They'll have a beautiful Shabbos together. They'll sing Zmiros. They'll go to Lion Safari on Sunday. They'll develop a relationship. And by Monday morning, he'll let her off the hook. His father's paying for kollel. He'll come up with excuses for himself. He'll come down and he'll never go to Beis Din. And if indeed she had bia with someone else during the year that she's an arusa, she would be min haTorah asur to him. So Chazal don't want to cut him slack. They want him to come to Beis Din with the taina. Okay? So, ulamai. So exactly what, I sort of tipped it off there, but exactly what is his rationale for going to Beis Din? Okay? If he doesn't want to pay her, he has to get rid of her now, and he doesn't want to pay her. To pay for a virgin is 200 zuz. To pay for an almana or a gerusha or a not definitively non-virgin is only 100. So he doesn't want to be out of pocket more than he needs to be. Nesivla. Beis Din isn't going to get involved in me owing you money. Let him pay her. It's not an issue that Beis Din would be interested in. Okay, Ella Isura Ola. The problem that the Beis Din would get interested in is a violation of halacha. If she's not a virgin and claimed to be, there's this problem. Perhaps she was during the year that she was in Arusa, and she would be ushered to him. And we just went through the suffix that he has to separate from her. The koto in taina. And our Mishnah uses the lashon, he came to Beis Din and complained. Okay? My love. So what would that mean? Taina to anas Pesach Pesuach. He wasn't, if he brought a sheet with a clean, crisp sheet, that would be a raya. That wouldn't be stam a complaint. So the lashon of the Mishnah seems to be indicating he had a basically unsupportable claim that she wasn't tight enough. And literally her opening was open. Okay, and that would be the claim. So that was the original statement of Rav Elazar, that if he complained she wasn't tight enough, she'd be ushered to him. It works out perfectly. But the Gemara says, lo, that's not true. That's not what we're talking about. Toin ta'una domim. The Burr thinking that the word toin ta'una means that he just made an unsupported claim is not accurate. He actually could have shown up with the clean sheet and said she did not bleed, which is better but not certain proof. That makes it already not even a sveka. That makes it a much more just tam a safek. And rove of cases, most women do show dam basulim So that would be a solid claim.
That's the gold standard. If that's the gold standard.
Well, it's the silver standard anyway.
Okay.
I mean,
Why would you allow the other claim?
because maybe she's from this family that doesn't bleed. Maybe she has a very flexible hymen. Maybe he has a very small penis.
So we're allowing.
that's why he's
maybe
lying.
even the most way
That's
out.
why-
Or
both
maybe,
sides.
well, they don't, apparently Gemara never takes that into, nowhere does a Gemara mention that. We know that.
Right.
But they were talking about 9-year-old girls.
I just remember.
In other words, he has issues,
Okay.
but there is no blood. And she is from the family. In other words, she has a chazaka, perhaps, of not having blood. Because she's from, I forgot the name of the family, in the first Rashi on the top of the page, it tells you the name of the family, the Duktoi family. That if you're in that family, you never have blood. So he married a Bas Duktoi, and now he's claiming, yeah, but she took this, she took liberties with her, this freedom that her biology gives her. And that's only a suffix. Okay, now we,
He went to the closet and got a clean sheet.
what?
Went to his linen closet.
He would want to do the opposite. He'd want to go and take out a bloody sheet.
Well, I'm saying if he did, but she could go off with a bloody sheet. That doesn't, she can't, right?
Well, that's why we have the Shishvanim. No, there are witnesses that, number one, attendants of the groom make the bed. They check there's no other linen in the room, and they stand outside all night to make sure that he can't climb out the window and sneak in a bloody sheet, or she can't climb out the window and sneak in a bloody sheet.
Okay.
That's all covered.
That's all things.
We talked about this, I think, 2 days ago. Okay, so Omar Rav Yehuda, Omar Shmuel, another possibility. We introduced the notion of ksuba. Maybe what he's trying to do is get out. He has buyer's remorse, and he doesn't want to give her 200. He wants to only give her 100. And we said the rabbis aren't interested in hearing such a case. We talked about that before, but now we're going to re-litigate that issue. Omer Rav Yehuda, Omer Shmuel, HaOmer Pesach Bisuach Matzasi. If he claims she wasn't tight enough, her opening was open. Neman, we believe him. Lahafsida Biksuba, and she loses her ksuba completely, not 100 even. She loses it altogether. It's a mekach tois. It was a fraudulent marriage. Okay, Amar Rav Yosef, Makamashmalan. What is Shmuel teaching us over here? We already know that. Tanina, we learned that in a different Mishnah. Ha'oichel eitzel chamav biYehuda shelo be'edim. If the Ores has dinner with the Arusa in her father's house and they're together alone in the area of Israel called where Shevet Yehuda and Binyamin were, Eina achel to'en ta'anas b'sulim. A Beis Din will not entertain a claim of she wasn't tight enough, because the assumption is he was miyached with her, and who knows what they did together. Maybe nature caused them to be intimate, so he cannot make that claim, mipnei shemis yached ima, because he was secluded with her. B'Yehuda the lo matzei to'en. Only in Yehuda do the Beis Din, but they didn't reject this claim if he could be shown to have been miyached with her. Oh, but Galil matzei to'en. But in the rest of Israel, in the Galil, they did accept that claim. Lamai. So exactly what would the claim be, and what would the Beis Din be dealing with? Isura love. If you're saying that this could that now she's at minimal a suffix zina, a suffix saita, be Yehuda amai lo. Why wouldn't the Bezdin in Yehuda hear the claim? This is already a derisive deal. Ella, but since there were two rulings in two different jurisdictions, Lav lehefseda b'ksubasa. In the north, they said this is grounds to not to throw her out without a kisuba. Udeka toin to una, and the Mishnah used the lashon toin to una. He has a challenge or a claim. He doesn't have solid proof. My love. The toin to una pesach psuach is what claim could he have? He's not showing a sheet, a clean sheet. He's saying she wasn't tight enough. So that and therefore in Galil, we allowed him to make this claim and she would lose her kasuba, but in Yehuda not. So that makes a lot of sense, except the Gemara says low. No. The toin tanas damin. What our Mishnah is talking about is he claims, look, here's a clean sheet. And the case would now hinge on what's her family background, etc., etc. Tune in tomorrow to learn more about the miscreant bride or false claiming groom.
Mordecai, I'll see you later.
Very good. Everything good yesterday?
Thank
Well,
God.
You'll talk to me
I-
tomorrow later.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll talk
come
to
on.
you.
That's why I said it was a very short Gemara.
Yeah, it's probably not even 9 o'clock. Yes,
Do you
sir.
have a number for Shmuel?
No, I do not. They did not give a number, and he's at a daughter's house, and
I
we
wonder if
don't.
you're trying to, what I'm gonna do is try his cell phone.
Yeah.
Look in the show.
Yeah, if
And
if
see
it
if
gives
it's
a
a
cell
cell
phone
phone
for him,
number.
we could call
Try
that.
to
That's a
call
good
him on his
idea.
cell phone.
We're talking about Isaac Schmerler.
Could be
His wife was Nifter, and they did the Levaya yesterday, but he's not here.
Yeah.
Look, this was episode bracha.
Yes, you would.
Yeah. No, she wasn't there. Came down. Just caught her in time anyway, just saw her.
Every Saturday, every Shabbos morning,